Let's talk about bone broth. Does it work? Well, there's not a tremendous amount of research out there. A lot of people claim that it works, but I think you just need to test it out for yourself to see if it does work. When you have knowledge of something and you know it's true, it's something that you personally experienced yourself. Knowledge doesn't come from secondhand information where, well, I know it's true because I read something in a paper or someone told me it's true. It's true because I tried it out myself. And so if you have gut problems or arthritis or maybe an autoimmune disease, you might want to try it because most people do bone broth for those two reasons. But today I want to discuss why it may work for those two conditions. And these are just theories. We don't know for sure. But what is bone broth? Bone broth is basically this cooked down bone, joints, connective tissue, marrow, and ligaments and tendons. And basically you're cooking all this down to make kind of a brew or a soup out of it. And then you're going to consume this liquid. And when you cook it, you break it down to these smaller elements. And so you're taking this protein, this long chain of amino acids, and you're breaking it up into smaller amino acids. So it is easier to digest and assimilate and absorb into your tissue. So it's not just amino acids, it's a lot of different things when you're making bone broth, breaking down bone into calcium, phosphorus, a lot of other minerals, and there's a lot of other things in joints and connective tissue, and even fat-soluble vitamins that can be in this product. Now, we know one of the amino acids called glutamine does improve the gut barrier, and bone broth is a good source of glutamine. Now, autoimmune diseases usually stem from some gut problem, where you have this protein that invades the lining of your immune barrier, your gut, and then your immune system starts to inappropriately tag this as a pathogen or a foreign body, and now you have antibodies against this particular protein. And so you can have an autoimmune disease against almost any body tissue. Now, you can also have something called molecular mimicry, where you have some substance that can mimic a body tissue, where you have some substance like gluten, for example, the protein in wheat, can mimic the thyroid tissue. So this could be one reason why you develop Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition to your own thyroid. So you have that factor as well. But when we deal with arthritis, for example, especially rheumatoid arthritis, it's an autoimmune disease, and it usually stems from the gut. And so anything you can do to heal the gut can be good for arthritis. There's other types of arthritis conditions with other causes. You could have high iron, which can cause arthritis, or a liver problem, or consuming too many omega-6 fatty acids, which then create inflammation. Also, a low vitamin D situation can create arthritis or joint pain or muscle pain, especially of the lower back. Or you can have a hidden infection in a tooth that can then go into the systemic circulation and go to different parts of your body and create arthritis or heart problems, or it can invade your brain. So if you're taking bone broth for arthritis, you really want to also find out what is the actual cause of my arthritis. Because if it's coming from something like a liver problem or high iron, bone broth is not going to work. Now, I want to mention one theory that I have that could potentially be the reason why bone broth does help for joint pain, especially an autoimmune type joint pain situation. Now, if you think about what an autoimmune disease is, it's a situation where your own body has antibodies against its own tissue, okay? They're called autoantibodies. So it's like your body has an allergy to its own tissue and it reacts against its own tissue. So we have this constant inflammatory situation of the joint if you have this autoimmune condition. Now, Dr. Royal Lee back in the 40s came up with this very interesting, this idea, this concept. And it kind of goes like this. Let's say you had an autoimmune disease of your joints, okay, where you had some type of antibodies that are attacking the synovial fluid or the synovial joint or the cartilage or whatever. And you consumed tissue from another species, as in bone broth, that has similar DNA in it, okay? And you consume this, it went into your stomach, your own antibodies that are attacking the joint, they're called autoantibodies, would then be distracted and go after this decoy. It's a really brilliant strategy that he came up with. And so what you're doing is you're creating a distraction. You're causing this autoimmune attack to occur in another place in the body and away from the joint that's being inflamed, giving the joint a chance to heal. And so he found that if you did this over a period of time, you can deplete this store of autoantibodies in your system and improve autoimmune conditions. And so he came up with a lot of different remedies for different types of autoimmune conditions, whether it was for the thyroid or the lung tissue or whatever. And so his company called Standard Process has these products that end with PMG. Okay, that stands for protomorphogen, which is basically the DNA of something, okay, of another species, like a cow, for example. So his products would be like thyroid PMG or overtrophin PMG. But this is just one theory that potentially could be true. I don't know if it's true or not, but I do know when people consume bone broth, they generally do feel better in their joints. So I just wanted to bring that up as maybe another understanding of the mechanism. But if you have gut issues, there's several things you need to do. Number one, probiotics, or even better yet, doing fermented cabbage, as in sauerkraut or kimchi. You can get a lot of probiotics from that. Also, the diet that you should be on for gut issues should be more fat, okay, in animal protein. I'm talking about animal fat and animal protein, okay? That's really good for the gut, but the ratio should be more fat to protein. You don't want to do lean protein. With a gut issue, you want to do more fattier protein, okay? So it would be like 2 or 3 to 1 as far as the ratio of how much fat versus protein. So fatty meat, fatty sausage, things like that. If you're going to do plants or vegetables, I would recommend cooking or steaming them because those plant chemicals can irritate people with gut inflammation. Definitely don't have any grains or grain oils, okay? And I would not recommend dairy. Eggs are fine, organ meats are fine, bone marrow is really good. One last point about bone marrow. People want to know, can I take it when I'm fasting? I don't recommend bone broth when you're doing intermittent fasting. However, if you're doing a prolonged fast, let's say you're doing 3 days, 4 days, 7 days, whatever, it might be helpful to take some bone broth simply because you're going to be in a situation where you might need some of these raw materials, especially some of these amino acids here and there. And because you're not consuming a lot of food, you're just consuming a liquid version of these amino acid and other products. I think it could be a very temporary situation where maybe you're going out of ketosis and you get right back into it. And a true fast is fasting and you're not consuming anything else. So if you're getting like muscle loss, of course, you would need more amino acids from that. So just a side note. Now, there's a very interesting interview that I did with a doctor on leaky gut. That would be a really good next video for you to watch, okay? Check it out. I put it right here.